A huge ultimate out of triple. So much damage across. And it looks like the Direwolves are absolutely rinsing the team. Hello and welcome to week 2, day 1 of the OPL, of course, brought to you by Hungry Jacks. My name is Jake Spawn Tiberi. Joining me on the desk is Bryce, Ejim, Paul. I mean, Rift Rivals coming up, Bryce. Unfortunately, much like myself, you weren't able to compete in it last year.
Yeah,
both unlucky 4th place split 1 finishes.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 irrelevant is the name of the game, and we both bloody copped it. That's a disaster.
I never thought that meme would come back in such a fearsome way.
I have retired as a professional player. That meme is still hitting me. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell?
Completely is. However, we do have a couple of the Rift Rival squads coming to you today. First game is going to be the Chiefs taking on Mammoth. And this is a Chiefs lineup that is off a red-hot victory against Rivals Legacy. I mean, when we have a look at this, Bryce, the mid-lane jungle duo of the Chiefs went at Claire and only, and they came out so far ahead.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely. Claire, one of the best performing members on Legacy last split. First game here, and they just got absolutely demolished. Legacy, of course, have a new jungler they're bringing in, but Bip has made a name for himself. Coming into the Chiefs lineup earlier this year has definitely cemented himself as one of the best junglers in the league. And on things like the Talia, on things like the Nidalee, is just so impactful.
And I know that's what you're impressed about by the Chiefs. The fact that they not only won with a standard comp, which is great because they are certainly a talented team in that way, but they also played one of the 8.11 comps and used it to great effect.
And that's the thing. They have played both. They played the Ornn in the bottom lane, and that was a 19-minute mid lane fight. And they just break open the base and push for the end. And I feel like the ballsiness to actually go for that. And you heard the Chiefs comms in their content after the match. Like, not all of them were committed to that. And Raze is just yelling week and end on that Ornn. And for them to be that dominant on this weird and wonderful 8.11 style composition, and then a standard one as well, I think it shows a lot of versatility in this lineup.
And I think for a lot of the teams that sit, 4th and below, that aggressiveness that the Chiefs bring really does put them on the back foot, and is maybe a way that the Chiefs have that edge, because we've seen so many times that if they get an advantage at 20 minutes, they just end the game.
And that's the thing. They are the team that will take an early advantage into mid-game. They will explode it. Sometimes it'll, well, not even sometimes. Most of the time, it'll be very beneficial for them. They'll explode open the game. A 5,000 gold lead becomes a Baron and 10,000, and they'll be able to get an early victory. Sometimes it backfires, but they're definitely a team that plays their best when they are cohesive, and they try to do that.
Yeah, and of course, they're going up against a brand new team in Mammoth. So it sounds like Bryce thinks if they get an early advantage, they might win. You can have your thoughts on who's going to win as well. opltips.com.au is exactly where you need to go. Register, get tipping for each week, your chance to win some XP boosts and some RP giveaways, of course, thanks to our friends at Hungry Jacks. And Bryce, I'm going to do it myself because I know what is coming. I don't know how to break this to the audience, but you're currently second last.
Well, okay, well,
in your tipping
I was
comp.
going to frame this that Jake is absolutely 100% dead last alone. I'm second last with like 5 other people.
At least I'm first at something. I am
You're
first
first
last.
at being the worst.
Yeah, you're second at being the worst. That's
I'd rather
arguably worse.
I would rather be average than the worst.
You're not average, though. You're second last.
I'm somewhere in the middle, you know?
I don't want to hear about it. Let's throw it over to 2 fine gentlemen that hopefully have some good insight on League of Legends, because apparently there's not all that much here. Let's throw it over to Nick Boy, and one of the most handsome, well-dressed, smart coaches in all of the OPL. It's Choo-Choos.
What kind of intro is that for me? Is Nick Boy, and then here's some golden god, and then the piece of trash he's sitting with. Hey guys, thank you very much. Welcome to the weekend, and Aaron Choo-Choo's Bland. Thank you for joining me on the couch.
Thanks for having
tonight.
me.
I'm very excited about this. Now, as the guys were talking about, we've got Rift Rivals coming up. We've got an exciting way for all you guys watching to be able to win tickets to the competition. Now, unfortunately, you just missed out on your team getting there. Does this mean you're rooting against Osh in this scenario? Is that
No, of course not. I'd still be rooting for the Oceanic teams. Like, it's still like we all on the same soil. I hope. I don't know. I hope we do well.
That's such a high road for you to take that I would just absolutely have ignored.
You wouldn't?
No. I'd be going for America, who aren't even playing in this competition. But we are going to give you guys a chance to win tickets to the competition. All you need to do is make a poster, the kind of poster that you would take to a concert. You've been to concerts before, I assume?
Yeah,
you
I
look
have.
like the kind of guy that would
But
go
I
there.
haven't made a poster before.
You've never supported your favorite artist. Who's your favorite artist?
Brockhampton, probably.
Brockhampton?
Yeah.
I feel very old that I don't know who that is. It sounds like a wrestler. So, but you know, if you were going to the wrestling, you'd hold up a poster that says John 316. We just want you to design something like that, but make it more League of Legends appropriate.
Does it have to be League of Legends?
Well, that's a good question. I think if you check the terms and conditions, it doesn't actually mention what game it has to be made
Just make
for.
a poster.
Yeah, but I feel like given we're currently being paid by Riot, they're going to assume
And you're going
it's
in the
gonna be-
ruling for
Exactly.
Rift Rivals, it would add up.
Exactly. So you guys can make a poster and submit it to us using the hashtag RRPoster, I believe, or RR sign, and then the best one will be judged tomorrow by me and my guest, but we'll get some input from you about some options throughout the night, and the best one will win 2 tickets to the competition. But the other thing I need you guys to do, I'm giving away some mystery skins, some Hextech chests, and keys throughout the night. What I need is some questions for Aaron throughout the night, and I just want to start off with I want some personal questions about you. I want getting to know you.
Sure.
I feel like the people need to know a bit more. I'm going to start it off just to give an example. When you go to the hairdresser, what number blade do you ask for the beautiful fade, if it even is a fade?
I asked for a number 2.
It's a number 2. There
Number
you
2,
go.
everyone.
So
there you go.
You go into the hairdresser, you sit down, you go, give me the choo-choos 2, and they'll know exactly what you're talking about. So you can submit your questions in Twitch chat or on Twitter. Use the hashtag IamOPL, and we'll get some of those out in the next seg. So back to you guys. Would you take the choo-choos 2?
I actually get a 0.5 to a 2.
Okay.
So I get the full fade, 0.5 to a 2.
Do you have enough for a 2?
So the top was a 3 when I went there. What do you get?
This was no, my sides were a 3. My top is just leave as much on there as I need a little bit to work with, you know?
Yeah, well, the problem was that Spooks told me I was balding.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to point out that the
Got rid
reason
of
we
it.
didn't make Rift Rivals was, of course, Legacy beat us, activating 2 sleeper agents in our team, Intally and Choo-Choos, that they had planted the season before. However, not talking about Rift Rivals anymore. Let's talk
Okay.
about Mammoth, a team that actually went to last year's Rift Rival as Sin Gaming, pulling up this lineup. I mean, when we have a look at it, they were so cohesive for a team that had legitimately been in the same country together for a week before last week's game.
And that's the thing, their last roster change, obviously Chippy's coming in, had a very good performance, but they were all on the same page. And the man on your screen, before we swapped to Chippy's, is Juves, and I give a lot of credit to him. He's rebuilt a lot of rosters over the years, and now this is 3 new players on his lineup. And this team is all on the same page, almost to a fault sometimes. Chippy's has got a hella big flank on one side of the team fight, and then they all commit hard on the other side because Juice is obviously making a call, but I feel like that's such a big deal for a new roster like this going forwards in terms of their improvement.
Yeah, you always say that you would rather have 5 people making the wrong decision together than,
absolutely.
a couple of people making the right one, a couple of people doing absolutely nothing. So I think that Juice brings that to all teams.
Yep.
I also think that Chippy's looks really good in a Mammoth jersey, by the way.
Hey.
Certainly suits him. However, I do want to talk about their imports. I want to start off with Remind. Played a couple of Zoe games, I believe. Looked pretty good on Summoner's Rift, to be honest. Actually was dominating in that mid lane.
Yeah.
Pretty stellar performance.
He was popping off double Zoe games, as you mentioned, double Camille games as well. But he was key in the team fights, against Bombers. They played them last week, and this is going to be a much harder challenge, I think, going up against the Chiefs and a laner like Ryoma. But he was key, and he was hitting, sleeping with a paddle star on the Zoe before every single team fight, and he was the pressure point that they really played again, around and snowballed the rest of the map. But the other point is their other in-point Mash, right? We haven't seen a lot from him. We've seen one game in the OPL or one match overall, and he didn't need to do much to win the game. Not to say he played bad. He actually played pretty well, but we haven't seen his true potential, I think. Whereas Remind, we've seen that very good performance.
So I said I wasn't going to do this, but now
Okay.
I'm going to renege on it. So
Okay.
what does Mash have to do today to show you that he is, that real deal for Mammoth? What does he need to achieve? What is it? Because you would have a checklist in your head. I know you. I know how you think about League of Legends. What
do you?
boxes? When you used to play competitive, you're like, I'm going to play 3 Lulu games. I'm going to play 3 more Garnet
I hated
games.
playing 3 Lulu games, by the way.
But I mean, what is your checklist for this guy?
It's very difficult because 8.11, he could be playing Aurelia, he could be playing Mordekaiser on, he could be playing standard 80 carries, right? I think going up against the quote-unquote self-titled most aggressive bottom lane in the league of Raze and Destiny will be a much bigger step up than Rosie and Tiger that he went against last week. So to see him have a good laning phase, I think is a very good start. Coming in, Kuden hasn't been a player who is now his support that's known a lot for his laning phase. Last week, played super well on
certainly
both
did.
champions. The Tom Kench game, that Flash Devour mid lane was super good, and I want to see him get that cohesion with Kuden and have a very strong lane phase.
All right, 30 CS up, 2 kills. That's what Bryce wants out of Mash. Me,
Exactly.
quote him on Twitter. Let's go through the Chiefs lineup. The boys in blue. Swiper is their top laner. Babith in the jungle. Ryoma, their mid laner. Raze and Destiny, as you mentioned, the 2 half of the most aggressive bottom lane in the OPL. They're going up. The Tusks up, boys from Mammoth. Chippy's in the top lane. Juves, they're 6 foot, 600 IQ. Road for UCLA.
Ooh.
Handsome handsome jungler. Reminding the mid lane, Mash and Kuden, very impressive last week as the AD carry and Joe support. Of course, Vicarious is their coach.
You just stole 5 inches from Jude. He's
6'5".
no longer 6'5". He's just flat 6 foot.
The
He's a
problem
shorty.
is he is actually quite a shorty in real life.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a tall man. I'm never going to throw shade about anyone's height because
I can.
everyone that stands next to me is like, wow, you're not even 6 foot. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for that. But Juves is shorter than me.
And you haven't even got the hair to compensate. You know, you can't even like get a bit of a get a bit of height extra there on the top. That's
However,
unlucky.
I do like the shaved head at the moment. I think it makes me more aerodynamic. And
Oh,
the other
okay.
thing is that it's comfy to wear beanies when you have short hair.
That's true. I'd like that is undeniable. I think. Absolutely.
So-
I'm not much
and
of
I'm
a beanie
big
guy.
beanie
but
fan.
You're a beanie guy.
In fact, I left my World's beanie somewhere in this office, and I'm still yet to find it. So if any Riot Oceania employees are watching this, I'm missing one black World's beanie. Let's get into Champion Select. It's going to be Camille and Alistar banned away by the Chiefs Esports Club. Of course, that is going to be a response to Leah Ornn ban from Mammoth.
So getting rid of the Ornn makes sense. Chiefs obviously in game 1 played that Ornn in the bottom lane, so a bit of a flex. Swiper also very known for that champion. Good bans there, Talia. Shout out to Babit, played very well last week on that champion. So to get rid of the best jungler in the patch.
Certainly did. We're just taking a look at Remind. He's a pretty cool cucumber. He doesn't really give much away on his face. He's quite a happy guy as well. Graves gets banned away, so Juve's not going to say that champion. Target bans towards Juves in the Camille and Graves. Obviously very worried about the captain of Mammoth.
Not worried about Chippies as Camille. Stews as Camille.
Yeah, 100%. Juve
Oh,
said
okay.
categorically, and quote, I am the best Camille on the server. End quote.
Yep. he can say that. Whether or not it's true is
I
still
love
up for
the
debate.
self-titled.
We had this conversation last week. Where it still remains to be proven. I think Zoe ban does come out from Mammoth despite playing double Zoe games last week. So
I feel like
Interesting
Juves'
here.
tactic, however, is kind of the shotgun. It's like make 1,000 outlandish statements,
and one of
and then
them
if
will
one
be
of them
true.
comes true, just claim that one. Like, see, I was right all along. Forget the other 999. It's going to be the Rakan picked up for Destiny or Ryoma, and it's going to be Chippy's grabbing himself, the Aurelia and Vladimir being locked.
And here we go. Chiefs played the 8.11 compositions last week. Mammoth played incredibly standard. But now Aurelia and Vladimir, we've seen this meta sort of settle out. Vlad can be played top, mid, and in that bottom lane as well. You see a lot of mage and support duos down there. Aurelia can go all over the shop as well. So double flex coming out of Mammoth. No idea where it's going just yet, but does open them up for a lot of options here.
So get another flex going, says the Chiefs Esports Club. Let's lock ourselves in a Yasuo mash on your screen there. See how this one works out. Want to point out that Swiper has now got all the shading and line work done on his tattoo. That's what I think the cameraman was alluding to. Couple more sessions for the color to come in. I actually like it black and white at the moment. It's going to be Trundle picked up as well. Most likely going to the jungle.
Yep, got a lot of knockups already for the Yasuo. Last time they played it, they had the Ali, they had the Ornn. Now they've got the Trundle, which is a very easy to execute mid game, especially against a champion like Aurelia. If you can get her into the mid lane, things like that. Melee has to be in the wave. You can actually Yasuo ulti off that pillar, so it just makes it so easy. Not to mention Rakan, Alt W into a team fight, multiple members. Chiefs have a lot of options right now.
Absolutely. And we'll see what Mammoth want to go with. They do go with TK. So a passive laner. Kuden, big grin on his face. Obviously loves to play the catfish.
Showing his teeth, you know. Tom Kench is doing the same thing. Just a bit of cosplay on the OPL stage.
Kuden is a player that I think that we've both had very mixed reviews on. He's had moments where he looks great. He's had moments where, honestly, he just doesn't stand up well enough in the laning phase. He's always been fine throughout the mid game, I think, but his lanes have suffered at time. I think that last week was really potentially the re-emergence of the old school Kuden when he first came on to the OPL stage.
And we have to touch on potentially a reason for that, right? Mash is known as a very vocal player, and Kuden is not.
Yep.
And those roles are normally reversed, right?
Absolutely.
The support is the talkative one making the calls, and the AD carry just has to click the buttons. All of a sudden, you have this synergy between the two, where the roles are reversed, but they still have every base covered. So potentially, that kind of unlocks Kuden to be able to reach his full potential here.
And it makes a lot of sense because Mash was playing a lot of the things with the go buttons, you know, like march forward on the Tahm Kench. He's saying, I'm going on the Tahm Kench, on the Kog'Maw. All you have to do is eat me.
Yep.
So that lends itself to Kuden's reactive playstyle. Singe, Mundo, Skarner, Xin Zhao, 4 bans going towards Juves in the Chiefs pick ban phase.
3 or 4. 3 or 4, but yes, 4 seconds to lock something in. Nocturne, okay. We haven't seen this in the OPL yet. We've seen it LPL, we've seen it LCK. Do they Do they put Vlad bot, Aurelia top, and lock in something like the Lulu? Because obviously Nocturne goes for the lethal tempo. You get him into the middle of a team fight, causing disruption everywhere. You give him a Lulu, somewhere we can ulti him, given the extra attack speed, builds an Ardent, things like that.
I mean, at the same train of thought, do you play Vladimir top and Aurelia bottom lane? Because there is so many different ways they can play this, although Aurelia historically not a great matchup into the Yasuo. It's going to be Ziggs Sion locked in, so Ziggs most likely for Raze. Although it could be mid lane.
This is the thing, we haven't seen like champion switches, we've seen role switches. We saw it last week, AV Frey actually going into the jungle, but now that we've had a patch of LCK, of LPL, of the bigger regions playing it as well, those guys were role swapping around. Faker and Bang switching it up here, so you don't really know who is going where on what champion.
This would be scary. Chippies had unequivocally, in my opinion, the best gangplank. And that's a big call because Mimic is obviously a very talented gangplank.
We saw that last
However,
week.
Chippies, when he got this champion, damage stats were off the charts and was able to completely take over the game. If the game went late enough, Chippies would not lose on this pick. And I think that, you know, Mimic has had flashes of that kind of performance as well. So definitely two of the better gangplanks.
But the caveat is if the game goes late enough, right? Because on this patch, the meta, the games end so shortly.
Yep.
Get very early victories across the board. You don't really have a lot of time to scale. That's why crit 80 carries just aren't being seen at all. Of course,
Apart from that one time they were seen.
Well, yes. Okay, at all was the wrong choice overall. We definitely saw an Ashe, and it was definitely very successful. This is going to be the double AP mage in the bottom lane. No 80 carries anywhere. Vladimir versus Ziggs.
Yeah, I'm super interested that this is the way they've gone. Obviously, Vladimir doesn't do all that well into the early pressure that Yasuo is going to bring either. But this is the true equalizer. Because when you have team comps like this, who really beats who? What really is a lane counter at this point? Are they even going to go to the lanes that are pointed out on their screen?
And that's the thing, right? Because you can ask a mid laner, like, how's the Vlad versus Ziggs matchup, right? And, like, they'll think back, like, seasons ago when they actually saw that. All of a sudden, you throw in a Rakan, you throw in a Tahm Kench, like, that changes the dynamics hugely. And I think that's something we do need to talk about as well, is the player experience on these champions. You give a mid laner Ziggs, he's played it for seasons, has been on the fringe of the meta at best, but he has that experience. Raze, he is a bit of a fill player in solo queue, but I can guarantee you nowhere near as much experience on these champions.
Absolutely. So I think that is where we will spend majority of our focus during the early game, checking in on those bottom lanes. You know, Swiper should be able to weather the storm. I expect Chippies to actually play a Klepto gangplank this game. Actually, it goes Grasp. So a little bit more defensive, but I think a lot of this is going to be won or lost by how Mash, by how Raze are able to master these champions.
And potentially because he thinks Swipe is going to go for the grasp and he wants to match that sustain, something like that. But Swipe is actually going for the greedier master. He wants that late game slow of the Glacial when he gets into a team fight, can cause much more disruption.
Yep, absolutely. I think the other big thing is that if you fall behind on Gangplank and it is a quick game, you don't get that benefit of, hey guys, let's just stall it out with a control mage. Hey, we've got an Azir. Or we've got a Victor. The game will go forever. No, we've got Aurelia. If I fall behind, I'm useless.
Yeah.
So certainly needs to be able to keep tempo. So I can respect the more defensive rune choice.
It's funny how we've gone from, within the space of a season, we've had like a 94-minute game in the LCK.
Ooh, Bryce.
And then we're having incredibly short games with Aurelia mid. But
I don't want to call it too early. However, I am very interested in the fact that the Chiefs duo lane appears to be on the top side of the map.
This is going to be a lane swap, and Mammoth, Juice is actually trying to start his buff. They're still sticking around. This is going to be 3v2. Remind hasn't left the mid lane yet, but he's looking.
And we're going to see the red buff successfully invaded.
And Mammoth are actually going to match.
Yeah,
they're going to be super far down in tempo. They're going to be second to the wave, going to have to walk all the way up to top side, but they just don't want to subject Chippies to that sort of 1v2 matchup.
Yeah, and I don't think you can with a Gangplank. I think Gangplank has to be even. Sion, happy to be that level 4 tank. Doesn't really rely on items to get him fulfill his role necessarily on the team.
And that's the thing. What ability does Destiny have level 1? Does he have the W? No, has the Q.
Oh, actually remind me, Big Trouble has to burn the Flash Ignite already out. If that Tornado hit, definitely would have been the kill.
But Ryoma stuck around in turret range, took 2 turret shots there to actually look for the Q, so all of a sudden has to play pretty carefully.
Yeah, in fact, he is a Q Ignite away from dying, so needs to ensure that passive comes back up. Just trying to get the wave in. We'll be able to do so now, Bryce.
That's pretty big. Does burn the flash, though, so 5-minute cooldown on Remind. And it's a pretty big deal for an champion like Aurelia that relies on that all-in potential. This is going to be a very volatile mid matchup. Yasuo versus Aurelia, junglers. Trundle and Nocturne aren't the best early gankers, but when you have such a volatile mid matchup with 2 melee lanes, then there's always potential for something to go on.
And we spoke about this a little bit the other night, Bryce. Coin start on Vladimir. Has good sustain once he gets to the level 5 mark. However, early on in the game, the Q kind of sucks for sustain.
Yep.
So having the 3 pots, I know you like it as a choice.
Does give the, out of all the support options, does give the CDR the rank 1 item, the tier 1 coin as well. So just wants to weather the storm. Has a Tahm Kench, and also, as you mentioned, the 3 pots. That's what Vladimir in the bottom lane does, right? Conversely to traditional AD carries with fleet footwork nerfs, Warlord's been removed from the games, things like that. Sustain is just gone, but all of a sudden, he's not Vladimir versus a Lucian. He's Vladimir versus a Ziggs, so dynamic switches a little bit there.
However, there is no double combat summoner spell, so if ever there is an all-in, if this gets to level 6 and they're still in the same lane, you would expect Kuden as well as Mash to be able to pop off, just because of the fact that there is a teleport as opposed to an exhaust ignite picked up for Kuden and Mash.
Not to mention, once you start hitting level 6, Juves going for the absolute full clear here. Whereas Babip has not, of course, wants to hit that level 6, wants to have the paranoia, wants to be able to get into those lanes, and early just can't do that on the Nocturne.
However, due to the fact that Babip had lane priority in bottom lane and top lane due to how late the Mammoth members were, he was able to pick up both Rift Scutlets.
Yep.
So he is farming like an absolute monster right now.
And he's still got 2 camps. He's still got Golems, he's still got Wolves. He's walking to the top side of the map, whereas Juves has opted in for a base. So Babip, very nice early pathing, gets him a lead and has got to maintain that for a little bit longer.
Mid lane, it looks like right now as well, Bryce. Nah, not going to go for it. Remind doing a good job playing towards the 1 ward he has.
Floating towards the bottom side of the map right now, Sweeper. Does mean that Mammoth know exactly where the Trundle is because it goes through the lane. The minions give them vision. So everything just going to stabilize for the most part. And all of a sudden, Mammoth pushing out on the top side. Ray's getting pretty low on mana here. Doesn't have the ability to just spam abilities all over the wave.
So talk to me about these comps. Who do you like late game? What do you think they do well? Are we looking at 1-3-1? Are they just going to be face ram comps?
It's very weird. And 1-3-1 obviously goes to Mammoth, right? You have a Gangplank, you have Aurelia, Vlad can just sit in the mid lane and wave clear, whereas Chiefs have the Force. They have the knockups, the Rakan. They want to get all 5 members onto your screen, and now they want to be forced in the team fights, whereas Mammoth just want to avoid it as much as possible.
See whether they're able to do that. I also think that if this game goes super late, just given the fact that Babip's not going to be all that tanky, you know, probably going to go towards something like a Ziggs, but, you know, not the pure tank items. Swiper will be tanky, but everyone else is in genuine one-shot territory of Mr. Mash Me.
And not to mention, like, Tahm Kench is the only one. He's a pseudo-tank at best just because he's low econ, because he's a support. Like, almost every champion in the game is one-shottable. That's why this meta ends so early, because once you get a lead, it snowballs so incredibly hard. It is difficult to stall out games. There's not a lot of wave clear. You don't have that ramping AD carry that will eventually come online that you can play for. So it's all about the lane phase, and it just means so much more.
So we'll see who's able to navigate. I completely agree. I think that both of these comps, if you get the jump, if it's ever a 4v5, if someone's not there or you miss an engage, if Destiny whiffs, you know, this is just going to be one of those games. And you see right now, Mash is going very aggressive in the bottom lane, repetitively pushing in, Bryce.
Yep, chugging a few pots here, but still got 1 left. Of course, TP is on the Ziggs, so Raze is going to back away. We'll be able to TP back to the lane, catch the CS under his turret fine. Destiny, of course, will miss some if he goes for the recall, as he does with his AD carry.
So talk to me about that. How do you decide whether... Oh, actually, don't talk to me about that, because they're swapping to bottom lane again.
And this is what they wanted at level 1. They didn't get the lane swap. Mash doesn't have TP, so Raze can cheat the tempo. We haven't even talked about the explosive charge, the satchel charge from Ziggs. Means if this turret does get low, they have the execute. But Bip is already here, so they're going to have tempo. They're going to be able to chip this turret, and Juves is nowhere around.
However, that isn't all that much damage. They used a lot of tempo there to be able to go bottom lane. I mean, they'll grab a wave of farm. However, Swiper took a couple of turret shots, now has to walk back top lane. Chippy's had the jump on him there. And I actually think this laning phase now suits Chippy's fine, because he's gone back, picked himself up the Sheen. And if I know one thing about Gangplank's matchups is as soon as you get a Sheen, you win. We saw that happen. The Gangplank get killed.
That is a bold call there. Ryoma has hit level 6 in the mid lane. So kill potential here. It's pretty big. Juves level 6 as well was looking for something mid, but just such a short lane. Nocturne wants to gank. Ryoma, he has the flash still available. He's basically a flash and a dash distance away from his turret, so very difficult from full HP to actually gank this lane.
Not to mention, when Yasuo has his shield up, he's actually quite ganky. Gets a reset there,
Ooh,
gets
that's
the
an all-in.
ulti out. This is an all-in. Both of them are going for it, and Remind gets first blooded. 1v1 for Ryoma.
Yeah, and he holds on to his flash, just uses the ignite, traded very easily there. They both thought they could win. Remind wanted that. He opted in for the ulti first, but knock-up lands. All of a sudden, Ryoma picks up what was a very easy 1v1. They just stood there, drew their swords, and fought. And he comes out the victor.
Yeah, I think if Remind had been able to flash the Nado,
Yep.
he hands down wins that. However, because he didn't, we got that shield back. That's, of course, the passive part of the Yasuo ultimate. Now a big advantage picked up for Ryoma. That is it 600 gold? Going to go over for that first blood.
That's going to be the volatility coming to fruition there. All of a sudden, Chiefs have that lead. Level 6 hit by Juice, and he hasn't actually opted into any sort of gank because all these lanes are full HP. That was an all-in from full HP mid, where nobody was really prepared but the mid laners. They saw the opportunity. It just came out of nowhere. No jungle interaction, and Remind goes down.
Mash really looking for this here in the bottom lane. You can see every time he steps aggressively up. He has boots too versus nada boots. He is so much quicker. He's absolutely zooming around the bottom lane.
Yeah, he absolutely is. But I really like the stopwatch pickup by Ray. Because, of course, he's going to poke out the Vladimir in the early lanes, wants to bully him, wants to be able to shove in under that turret, and the first all-in should fizzle, right? Rakan can go onto the Vladimir, can go onto the Tahm Kench, can buy a bit of distance. Raze can Zonya's the first ultimate from the Vlad, shouldn't take too much damage, will be ultimately fine, so buys them a lot of time from the all-in that will eventually be coming from Mammoth.
Not to mention there's a slight arming on your satchel charge, so you can drop satchel charge, then Zonya's, and then come out of
Just sit
Zonya's
there.
and pop it straight away, get away. Very nice little interaction there. Juice clearing out some wards around mid lane. Destiny also hanging out, as is Babip, just party in the mid lane.
Do they pull the trigger on anything? Juice kind of walks into the side bush. Pink ward is dropped up by Bip, so he's just going to sulk away. Looking for something in the bot lane. Now Razor's alone for the time being, but Destiny tracking down there will keep his, I was going to say 80 carry, but his bot lane player alive.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a carry player. We need to come up. Bot lane's cool. I like bot lane, because sometimes they're not even carries anymore.
That is true. And you get Ornn down there.
He's
I don't like
duo
it.
partner.
Yeah, he's duo part. I like that. Because Destiny is also a bot lane player, you know, like he's in the bot lane, he is a
Supports the
support.
bot laners too.
Yeah. Hey, can't leave us out, man. It's rude. It's hella rude.
See whether Juice is able to get anything done. He has been farming up a little bit of a storm right now, Bryce. And as he gets some more levels, as he gets some more AD items, that's only going to increase the tempo which he farms.
And he has caught back up, right? Because Babip did have that tempo lead early, did have a few camps up. Of course, he is about one behind now, but... Oh, big
here we go,
engage.
bottom lane. Actually, that is going to be no full pop. Destiny able to layer the CC beautifully. Kuden couldn't get the eat. And now bottom lane turret will fall down.
And that was CC onto both of them. The satchel was used in the fight, so doesn't have it to blow up the turret, but very easy 2v2 kill. Perfectly timed CC from the Chief bottom lane. Destiny and Raze. Maybe they are the most aggressive bottom lane. They get the kill onto the Vladimir.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very
I thought
nice.
that was going to go the other way there. Take another look at it.
And we have to look at the CC, right? Destiny is about to prime his ultimate. He's looking for something. Mash gets poked out there, but actually goes in. Knock-up lands, and Satchel is crucial because it means the Ziggs ulti lands, no pool is available, despite having Flash available as well. Mash has no counterplay. Kuden can't eat him up. They make it look so easy.
Yeah, they had no time to use any buttons.
They just hit, like, Chiefs just hit all their buttons in the perfect order and timed them perfectly, and that's a kill.
Yeah, and you have to say that that's impressive. When you have time to lay your CC so well that they're not able to flash, they're not in range to exhaust, there's no eat coming out, just completely outplayed them, picked themselves up a big gold reward, and with the first blood, with that turret going down, that's now a 2,000 gold lead.
And that's going to be a first item spike already completed, the Ludens for the Ziggs, whereas you have to think about Mash, 350 gold in the first coin, and then 500. That's 850 invested in that coin upgrade. His first item is a long way away. Mind you, Vladimir wants to ramp up, wants to hit level 9, things like that. He wants to be at that point, but this spike for Raze is huge.
And Chippy's really is not interested in playing against that duo. You can see every single time a potential swap is coming out, Chippy's rotates away. Will lose a creep wave there. Remind is actually going to be the person that is punished for it. And now they sit Kuden as well as Mash mid lane. And as you mentioned, Destiny and Ray's just a little bit stronger at the moment.
Everybody still has their flashes. Nothing was used in the bottom lane, so there is that layer of safety for the Mammoth bottom lane. But
Chippies might have to use a flash here. Speaking of which, will look to just walk away.
Ooh.
Gets pillared up. Very nice use.
last second flash. That pillar locks him in the wall. Knockup was coming from Destiny. Very last frame flash, and this is going to be with that mid priority, with that bot priority. Almost a pick onto Chippies. That's going to be a free Earth Drake going over to Chiefs.
And Swiper right now is an absolute freak. He's gone back,
Yeah.
got himself a Frozen Heart and Ninja Tabby. So anyone that does AD damage, unfortunately, will not be doing much to Big Dossie.
And that's the thing, they've also picked on Mash, right? That's where their kill is. They've got that kill down in the bottom lane. The only AP damage source on the lineup of Mammoth. Aurelia doesn't want to dive onto a Scion. Nor does Gangplank, nor does the Nocturne.
And Doss has done it again. He is the guardian. Oh, actually, in goes Juves looking to get the blow up. Will not be able to get it. However, the red smite is OP.
He gets the rift.
Now Swiper got the rift. However, will get slowed down. Ultimate
live?
flash there,
Oh.
and he will live. He's just going to walk this one out. And in goes Destiny, looking for the big knock-up, followed in by his mid laner, and everyone from Mammoth right now is just falling down. Kuden already popped the Grey Health, will not be able to do anything. Double kill over the Ryoma, and the Chiefs absolutely wash Mammoth.
And a near perfect engage for them. They get almost everything that they want. Ray still has TP available, so despite falling down, that's Rift Herald immediately dropped mid. He's back with the rest of his team.
This
They're
is the
continuing the
double.
siege.
I mean, they get one charge here, plus just a passive pop. Don't use a satchel here. However, he put a little bit of turret
They could get
aggro.
two.
Next one, plus satchel, they could nearly get three. No, they'll get two. That's not good enough.
So let's tone it down a bit. They do back away. They don't get the wave in, so Mash will be able to deal with this. And
They will
very
get top
nice
lane
play.
turret. That will be 3 turrets picked up.
Yeah, that's a big gold swing. What was otherwise a fairly even game. 2 kills were over to Chiefs. All of a sudden, 5,000 gold lead. And you were saying it, Swiper is the defender of Rift. Juve smited that because he wanted the extra bit of HP. They go back in. They get onto Raze. He barely escapes with his life, but does tick down with the Ignite. But the big thing is going to be Chippy's TP. He channels it here, but he sees the splash out of Swiper. Mash is like, no, I can't kill him. And now Chiefs immediately turn around. Destiny has the ultimate. They have the Yasuo combo. No way that GP can influence the fight. That's a triple knock-up on Swiper as well. So they get the Rift. Raze unfortunately dies, but they get the perfect fight as well.
And who cares about one death? You just picked yourself up 3
5,000
kills
gold.
as well as 3 turrets. That is a pretty big deal. They're now 4,500 gold up. We already said that they have the comp that just goes forward.
And this is how they play. They get an early game lead. It gets to 20 minutes. They force around Baron and they just force a fight. Mind you, this was a Rift Herald. It's 5 minutes early, but this is exactly the type of play that you expect from Chiefs and the situation they want to find themselves in.
And Dossie just sniffs out the play.
He does.
Swiper is just like, my
Rift Herald
spidey
smelly?
sense, my spidey
Okay.
sense are tingling, you know, my people need me.
Or is Juve smelly? Is Juve smelly in the Rift Herald pit? And that's the problem. He's like, I know something sus is going on here.
But certainly was able to read that one. And they actually didn't get top lane turret, so there is still standing gold available.
True.
So it's only 4,500 gold now. I say only very tongue-in-cheek.
15 minutes into the game.
But it is going to get worse, is what I am trying to say.
They're looking potentially for something mid, but no, Swiper just going to place a pink ward. And this is something he does very often. Swiper plays a lot of tanks. You don't want to be sitting in the side lane when you play Ornn, when you play Scion. He gets priority. First time he walks up the river. Actually, hold that.
Yeah, hold that thought. Breaks out of the range of that, however. Very nice spell shield. Flash already out of Ryoma. That will be the ultimate used by Remind. Gets the stun there as well. However, knocked up out of that. And Juves is just left into the wolves. In comes the teleports. And the Chiefs are everywhere.
And Juves had nothing left. He went in. Ryoma burnt the tether on that fear. All of a sudden, Juves, no flash, can't catch back up. TP comes through. Chiefs punished once again.
And the Chiefs right now are just rolling. They look so comfortable with the lead. That was a proactive play from Mammoth. Juves actually decides to fight that one, but it doesn't work in his favor. His mid laner again falls down. 0-3-1 for Remind. This is a night and day difference than what we saw against the Bombers.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is Swiper always rotates his pressure to mid lane. First time, he walks up river, places a pink ward. Around the blue buff, things like that. Next time, gets priority again and goes ganks for Ryoma. But all of a sudden, he's topside. The immediately TP. Mammoth look for the proactive play. Same result, different setup here for the Chiefs, but just extending their gold lead, about 6,000 now.
And historically, when the Chiefs have been at their best, and you know this better than anyone, Bryce, they have had a very good late game AD carry, but they have played primarily around their mid-jungle duo. And they've floated all the pressure towards Swiffer. Now they're floating all that pressure towards Ryoma.
Yep.
And the scariest thing about this is Raze is just silently accumulating farm, and you know that even if you get to that 40-minute mark, he's probably going to be ahead of your AD carry.
They've got another threat.
They've got that second threat there, and this is just getting scarier and scarier right now for
And
Mammoth.
Raze hasn't even used his stopwatch yet. Like, he hasn't really been in too much danger. Probably he could have used that to live, now that I think about it, off the Ignite that ticked around the Rift. You know, like, we won't talk about that one, but is approaching his second item, going for the Morello, so goes Ludens for the CDR, and then straight penetration. Oblivion Orb, Sork Shoe, so he's going for that damage spike that they want at 20 minutes. And now they don't even care about the top lane. Remind's sitting up there, no TP. He's absolutely alone. Swiper's just grouping straight up mid.
And they're saying, let's go, boys. Let's run this one straight down mid. Swiper already threatening the dive. You can see that looking for those knockups. And because they have Ziggs, this turret will just take so much damage from the auto attacks.
All they need is the 75% on that one. Satchel coming out very early, so won't do any damage to the turret. The big thing
Go.
is going to be hitting the Gangplank barrels, because that's the only real wave clear they have. Remind sitting in a side lane. Vlad isn't going to walk into the middle of the wave to hit his EQ on everything.
And what I was going to say, if you're a Ziggs player, yes, your Satchel's very good, but also remember that your passive is very strong versus turrets. The way you get additional passive shots is by hitting spells. So throw out the Satchel charge at the start, make sure you're knocking people away from the turret, get more passive procs, and then you'll be able to take the turret down even quicker. Ziggs passive, of course, is just an empowered auto attack, but it starts doing stupid damage to structure.
That's why we see Lich Bane as like a luxury item on Ziggs once you get later into the game, is auto attacks. Not a thing you really think about for the champion, but they do so much damage here.
And he's also quite long range. He reminds me of old Annie, where he doesn't have ignorable auto attacks.
Yeah, true.
Obviously, when you think about Annie, you're like, hey, I'm watching for Tibbers and the W and everything else. But she also used to, now it's gutted, and that's why you don't see her in support. But she used to have like this really long, floaty auto attack. And Ziggs kind of has the same thing going.
He just lobbed on the fireballs over and just tickled away at you during the laning phase. That's going to be basically free Infernal Drake picked up by the Chiefs.
And you probably don't want to give that to a Yasuo Ziggs comp. Both of those champions do like to stack their primary stat quite high.
But they don't have any other choice. There's no way they're fighting them right now. There's no way 5v5, all 10 members on your screen, Mammoth can stand up in a team fight. They're gonna have to try in about 30 seconds with the Baron set up. Chiefs already floating all of their pressure over there, looking to deny a lot of that vision.
And that's potentially what it is, right? If you know you have to fight once against this team comp, so you want to have everything available, you want to have waves pushed out, you want to do it on your terms. Because it's not like Gangplank Vladimir is a bad team fighting comp. So there is a point in this game where if the gold is relatively close, 4,000 at 20 minutes is a lot, 4,000 at 45 minutes is absolutely nothing, that they can pull back a team fight.
And Chiefs is also a one-button composition. You need Rakan engaged to land so that the Scion can come in, lay a CC, Ziggs ulti over top, Yasuo gets the knock-up he needs. If the engage doesn't stick from the Chiefs, if Mammoth can use those flashes that you're saying they're building up, they have all of their resources available, all of their tools. If they can dodge the initial engage, all of a sudden Chiefs are significantly weaker. So it's a lot of pressure riding on the likes of Destiny and Swiper to make that first pick count.
Not to mention the fact that they've stayed even in experience. And I talk about this a lot at the moment, but experience is equally as important as gold. The game really sucks when you're an item down and you're 2 levels down, because then you don't have the base stats to go with it. But the Chiefs, they just pull the trigger.
And they know that Mammoth can see them. They walk straight over the Scuttle Crab here. There's got to be a flank coming from the top side with Remind. GP ulti comes down.
Yeah, they just look like they're going to continue it. Jews might just potentially look for the steal here.
That's TP.
Teleport is going to come in. Big flank. In they go onto Ryoma, and they get him. No, they don't get him instantly. He is shut down eventually by Kuden. Mash gets everyone on the back end, and now Raze has to head for the hills. Swiper still trying to continue this fight. However, they're flashing away, and right now, arguably, Mammoth are winning. In goes Babib, looking to clean up the back end. Chippies will get knocked up, will have to flash away, but Mash is still going very strong. Will eventually fall down, and this is the Chiefs now running away with it. Chippy's trying to head for the hill. Kuden is still there. That's another good barrel for the slow and speed up. However, over the wall, Satchel Charge plus Comet will pick it up. That is a 4-for-1, but a very close team fight.
Yes, very, very close. Kuden barely gets out with his ultimate, goes back to mid lane, trying to secure some vision control, but Swiper will ultimately put an end to that. And Chiefs, TP coming out. Do they just look for another play on the Baron?
I mean, they potentially can. However, the big thing is that death timers are so low. Aurelia and Jews are already nearly back there, and they're not the tankiest fellows at the moment.
And Swiper hasn't based, but Bip hasn't based, and they're not starting this with full HP. They have no potions available. This time the Baron damage will actually stick.
So we'll see whether they continue to go for this. You can see Juve still has his flash available. Maybe they didn't know whether he kept it up. And you can see Remind on the back end still looking for this play. Gets a stun, over the wall goes Destiny, burns the flash. However, these flash cooldowns were so crucial.
They barely get away. They were just looking for the fight, not willing to contest for an all-in on the Baron. They knew Juves was over the wall. They knew he had the flash available, but Bip no smite, so there would have been no secure. And that was a very close. That was a very back-and-forth passage of play. Potentially could have swung either way, but Chiefs, ultimately, it does
Grabs them about 1,500 gold.
keep them in the gold lead. Extends it a little bit here, 5,000, 22 minutes into the game. So we're still very early. You mentioned the death time is incredibly short. That means Mammoth can get back onto the map. They can defend that second attempt.
And that's all it was. The Chiefs maybe lost track of the fact that it's, you know, oh, actually, that's going to be Darkness coming in. However, Rakan is also up here. Will get all the CC up. And Remind, once again, it's just getting blown up. You can see they do trade 2 for 1. But Destiny play that so well.
Perfectly. Destiny gets onto Remind, and that means that Ryoma can break the tether. It puts him away from the Nocturne all of a sudden. What was a dire situation turns into a 1-for-2 trade. It was a flashless Yasuo. He wasn't going anywhere. With the counter engage from Destiny, it means that they do get that kill.
And they need to not get sucked in here because Ryoma is so much of their Baron damage. When you're spawning the Ziggs bottom lane, you don't necessarily have that consistent damage. And potentially could have been a face check coming out of Mash as well as Kuden.
And Raze has actually gone defensive. He has the Oblivion Orb for the MP, but he's gone straight for the Zhonya's. Knows that Nocturne is a bit of a problem. Every single fight that Juves has the option, he just goes on to Ziggs. A mobile AP carry. If you can stop him from flinging spells from so far away, you can close that gap. You can kind of put him out of the fight. So it goes for the defensive option.
CDR is always a great stat. When you're ahead, when you got those base stats, when you got a dragon rolling, you can afford to go a little bit more greedy towards CDR. And defensive items win you games because he's already even or ahead in the gold department. So being able to just keep himself alive in fights is equally as important.
But now they have a banner from Rakan in the bottom lane. Chippies doesn't have TP, so he doesn't really want to go down there to contest it. And also Swiper has one too, actually. Yeah, Destiny holding onto his. So they have 2 available. Chippies has to match it. Swiper has TP advantage. Chippies, of course, can ulti across the map, but this is almost complete Baron control. There's no wards in the pit from Mammoth. They're kind of hovering around. They know there's always potential for Chiefs to start it up, but they haven't started yet.
But once again, this is just so smart from the Tahm Kench. He hovers. He has a semi-global. He's going to get him back to mid lane nearly. And
unfortunately, he's only level 10, so doesn't have rank 2. It is pretty short.
But still would cover some of the distance. Much quicker than walking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beggars can't be choosers at this point of the game, Bryce.
That is true. That is true. Dragon going to be spawning in about 10 seconds.
Is it another fire?
Oh,
it is.
It hurts. Mammoth are playing the bait game. They know that the Infernal Drake is up, and they know that Chiefs want it, so they're trying to at least trade the Baron control, at least stall that out for some time. Maybe they can look for another team fight. Like, that was fairly close. No flashes available on a lot of the members of Chiefs. Raze is the only one with that, so all of a sudden Juves has a lot more targets to pick from.
Not to mention, Infernal Drakes are always good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to make a case for them being bad ever. However, they are also better the later the game goes. So if Mammoth think they can win a team fight in the next 2 minutes, that Infernal isn't as scary as it's going to be in, you know, say 20 minutes time when they have 6 items.
So they do retain some of that Baron control. Chiefs going to double sweep their way through, clear out all those wards and try and take it back. Unfortunately for Mammoth, the Crab was not available, so there's nothing that will actually
Did they show? They might have shown, so they're going to have to get in Tahm Kench's belly and come towards the fight now. However, they are still so far away. Mash is going to have to start this one up. And you can see that they dropped the Gangplank ult very early. They scout out where Destiny is, and Swiper is still tanking up this Baron.
Last time it was the Yasuo, so Swiper on the Scion is a much better target to be able to do that one. Chiefs do win the battle over the Scuttle Crab, so all of a sudden they have the vision, they have the speed, everybody backs away.
However, we saw this a little bit with Order last week. When you lose mid lane priority, you can kind of get pincered around the map. So Mammoth don't decide to go for that. However, they have bought enough time for Chippy's ultimate TP to be back available.
But they don't have vision of the Baron. They don't have vision of Chiefs. They see them walk towards the Baron pit now, so they don't actually complete their recalls. Flashes still are available on multiple Mammoth members. No GP ult, though.
The fact that Mash has Flash is the big turning point of this fight. If he can get in and start doing some damage, it will mean the world. However, about 4,000 health there. Swiper goes in. Mash gets onto
Mash.
everyone on the back line. Will get CC'd up, but they're going to continue. 2 members already dead from the Chiefs, and this is an absolute wash. Look at how big Mash is. Juves is soloing out Destiny. Babip will fall, and this is going to be the clean ace.
And a split fight for the Chiefs. Members go left and right. Mammoth immediately punished. That was a huge gold deficit. That's a complete wipe. 5 members still alive, and they're going to get the Baron.
Run! He will get away, and that is going to be Baron picked up, as you mentioned. And that was the Chiefs with a 6,000 gold lead, giving it all back.
And they were playing the bait game, right? They were tanking up the Baron for so long. Tried it once, pushed out top, tried it again. Mammoth plays so patiently. They don't burn summoners when they don't need to. They have them all available for that crucial moment. This game was looking like a complete stomp from Chiefs. All of a sudden, Mammoth clawed their way back.
And they're within 1,600 gold. Let's take another look at this.
And critically, Destiny's Flash is not off cooldown here, so Swiper has to be the one to engage it. That's so much more less reliable. All of a sudden, Ziggs gets almost one-shot by Vladimir. Juves goes in, picking off people in the backline, and right now, no carries available, just the supports. Trundle Scion can do nothing. Rakan gets soloed out by Juves. That was the perfect fight that Mammoth needed, and they execute.
And the big thing for me was the fact that they finally chased Destiny off his flank. Before that began, you saw that Destiny was actually in the river brush, looking for the flank on the backline to get Ryoma access. But this time, they scouted him out before it happened. And we see actually Mash potentially caught out of the mid lane, will get eaten up. That's going to be the ultimate used as well. Good stun and flash over the wall by Kuden. Heads up play.
Yeah, very defensive. Burns the summoner there, and Chiefs actually going on the proactive despite not having the Baron pressure right now. Ryoma is in bot lane trying to cause a little bit of a ruckus, but against the Baron, this banner won't really stand up.
And the scary thing is that Chippy somehow is 60 CS and 3 levels above his opponent. He is huge right now.
And Chiefs have spent so much time with Swiper Group, right? He still has TP and has had it for the longest time. He is the tank that they need to be around the Baron, and
they're pinging in mid lane. Flash is available. They've already burnt the pool. That is going to be a very good pillar, but Babip takes so much damage. Kuden is stuck. Flash very nice out of Mash, however, does not get any of the carries, really. Big damage goes out onto Ryoma, and they still are looking to win this team fight. Chippies is soloing out 3 members on the back line, and he is winning.
Raze does not have Flash Destiny, incredibly low. So ultimately, it's just a 1-for-1, but a Tahm Kench for a Yasuo. If you're a Mammoth, you take that any day of the week.
Heck, the fact that Chippy's just turned around and kept 3 people at bay on Gangplank is not a good sign.
And with these compositions that the Chiefs have picked, they picked it with the Ornn last game. This time they have the Ziggs, they have the Yasuo. It's all in on the team fight. Once you don't have the gold lead, now they're in a gold deficit for the first time of this game. All of a sudden, you get past mid-game. This composition out of Mammoth is just doing so much damage you can't deal with.
Yeah, and we've already said Aurelia, she doesn't scale all that well anyway, so the fact that she's behind, that doesn't mean all that much. Disarm's going to mean the world against the Yasuo comp. When you got a Vladimir and a Gangplank ahead, that's the gold lead that really starts to matter.
That's almost a 3,000 gold lead alone for Chippies. And Mammoth are only 2,000 up in the lead, so he has more than his entire team is up there.
And Mash is done. From here, it's defensive items. It's probably going to be a Zhonya's, potentially go towards something even like the Banshee's Veil if he wants to go for it, to stop him getting knocked up before he can get the pull off. But as far as offensive items go, he's got the 2 needlessly large rod items and the penetration.
I will say, though, that 1-for-1 trade stalled this Baron play from Mammoth a great deal of time. They've now got less than a quarter left, basically like 30 seconds available on this, and all they really get is those mid lane turrets. Ryoma dies for Kuden, but that means that Mammoth can't break open your base. They only get a few turrets. They're going to pick up this Fire Drake, but
they did get 4 turrets with the Baron.
I
mean, 8,000 gold behind to a 1,500 gold lead, 9,500 gold swing. I would say that's still probably a good Baron power play.
Yes, I'm not debating it is, but they buy a little bit of time. But Swiper just can't match at the side. 14 to 17 here on Chippies. There's absolutely no way. That's double banners going topside to try and draw Chippies up there. Doesn't have TP yet, so
if this is a Fire Drake and Mammoth are able to peg one back, I would argue that this Fire Drake is probably equal to the 2 Fire Drakes that the Chiefs have, just because it's a Vlad Fire Drake. And he loves them more than anything in the world.
Absolutely. Flash. Half of the cooldown gone from Mashme, so in about 2.5 minutes, we'll be able to get into the backline. Has those Ionia boots, so a little bit shorter as well. Chiefs looking to try and take something on the top side. Ziggs means that turret is just going to evaporate. Double banner, this is going to be very easy for them, but Fire Drake, as you mentioned, very important pickup for Mammoth.
And I think this This was the thing that was confusing me. When you have a Ziggs that was ahead like that, especially with Zhonya's and stopwatch, they could siege all day. If you hard engage onto the Ziggs, he has so much peel in this composition, probably would be able to survive. However, they went towards the Baron. I think that that turret was going to fall regardless of whether they wanted to keep it up. Ziggs is just so good at chipping them down.
So everything sort of stabilizes here. 1,000 gold lead is Mammoth right now. Walking out of the base, Kuden does go back, opting in for a bit of an interesting build here. Got the Warden's Mail, wants to be straight up tankier, not going for the classic support items.
Potentially wants to be able to issue a big slow when everyone dives into the middle of the team fight. See whether he's able to pick up something like Oranguans. That's a very expensive support item to go towards.
It is, but he's already got the Knight's Vow, and that's like gives you the armor, gives you the health. That's basically everything you need. Of course, health is double value on someone like Tahm Kench. Of course, when you pop the grey health, you get to live it twice, so makes a lot of sense to go for another armor/health item.
Completely agree with you. I want to ask you a strange question while we have a little bit of a lull. If you were Kuden in this game and you win, so let's just pretend a hypothetical situation that they win this game. Who do you honor?
Oh,
do you hit Mash with, you know?
You want to, because you're like, man, like we lane together, we play together, like you play pretty well, you've been influential.
Do you give the tilt proof to Remind? Because he's the 055, 80 CS,
See,
couple of levels down on the Aurelia.
I've become a
However,
nice guy.
is still doing his job in the team fight.
And I try and avoid tilt proof to players that have a rough game. You know, I think the honor is probably going towards Chippies. You know, give him like a good game. Like I enjoyed playing with you award. You did pretty well.
I like when my top lane is nearly Flame Horizon. It is like 3 levels up.
Pretty well is a little bit of an understatement, as you mentioned. He's absolutely monstrous on the gangplank, but he's approaching that 5-6 item mark. Chiefs somehow still have the priority here. Mammoth a little bit slow to the rotation. Ziggs means that this turret will go down for free.
And I think, once again, I just think that these are so hard to start fights around if you are Mammoth. They were winning fights because they were getting engaged upon. They don't have the best engage. They have Vlad runs at you and hopefully gets a 3-man ult.
And he's only just got his flash available. So with that one down, it's very hard to get onto the carries that you need to. It's very hard to get onto the Ziggs, who you mentioned has a lot of peel. But the fact that Chiefs drew Mammoth all the way to the bottom-hand side of the map, they attempted to defend that turret even though it fell down. All of a sudden, they have the short track to Baron. They get the control. They get the pink wards. Buddy system coming out with Kuden and Juves. Very nice that Juves leads. Penny CC. Of course, in this game, it's just basically a Rakan, but if you're against a Blitzcrank, a hook, things like that, all of a sudden, Tahm Kench can eat you out of the CC, keep you away, so...
That's my favorite part of Dustblade, by the way.
The insta-ward hit.
I love when I'm playing an Assassin jungler like Nocturne or Pyke at the moment, and I can walk around and one-hit wards.
Feels good.
Because
so satisfying.
pink wards suck.
Yep.
4
Especially
auto
as
attacks for 1 ward.
Especially as a champion that doesn't get a lot of attacks. So if you're a support like Pyke and...
Yeah. Or, unfortunately, Tahm Kench. Start building Dustblade on Tahm Kench. Is pretty much what I'm telling you.
Unfortunately, much like your tips, that's probably pretty bad. So Chief's going to set up around the Baron once again.
Down second last.
Side waves. Got to be pushed out. Bot lane pushing towards Mammoth, but Chippy's the only one with TP, and he really wants to be at the start of the fight here.
And if I'm the Chiefs, I'm calling don't go towards Baron. Just keep it in the lanes. Every time we go towards lane, we peg back the gold leave. It's back to completely even. We don't want to fight in an area that Vladimir can one-hit 3 of our members.
But how do they play elsewhere? Because they really don't have the split push advantage.
I think you just march it down mid.
It's potential. Looks like what they're doing right now. It's going to be a 10v10 A-Ram up the mid lane. Banner in top is going to push in for the Chiefs. Bot lane has resets, so Mammoth, they do back away. They want to catch those waves. Juice hasn't hit level 16 here critically. Really wants to be able to farm a few camps. Of course, none of them really are available, just the golems, but he doesn't want to walk all the way over there.
You know he's pinging it, and then his team is eating creep waves in front of him,
He's
and he's getting
super
real
frustrated.
mad.
Yep.
Will be about half a bar away from him. Can they actually send him top? Because I would argue at this stage of the game, especially if he gets level 16, Juves is the best person to go top lane.
And as we see at this point of the game, everybody staggers recall. Because Baron just dies so quickly if you just let 5 people stand there and whack away. So Ryoma channels his, Swiper channels his. They get back onto the map. Raze goes through. All of a sudden, he's recalling. You see on the other side, it's followed up by the Tahm Kench, by Remind and the Aurelia, now staggered by Mash as well. So everyone playing this very tentatively. As you mentioned, Chiefs really don't want to force at this point. They feel like they can't fight in these choke points around the Baron. But also, as you mentioned, Mammoth, they just don't have the engage.
And Flame Horizon accomplished.
Yep.
He is going to go back. I would love to see Chippy's gold right now. If he's able to get towards the GA, You feel like they probably can't kill him twice.
He just sold his corrupting for the BF, so he's definitely on his way. And these banners are buying so much time for Chips. They've invested in another one. That's double Aegis items out of the Trundle. That means that Chippy's the only member of TP, has to constantly be going to the side lane, and he's the gold lead, right?
Yep. And they're not necessarily bad stat sticks either.
Yeah, no.
As we see, actually, potential engage coming onto Mash. Will be able to get away. Had to pop his
Spellbinder.
Spellbinder, that's what it's called. Nullifying Orb is a rune. Mastery, rune's Reforged. Rune.
Yeah, just a bit of both. This is actually going to be a deep flank, but pings went out from Chiefs. They know that Mash is on the other side of the lane. There's a very nice ward that spotted him walking into that choke, so they know exactly where he is, and they're wary of that Vladimir flank. He has the flash. If he gets onto Raze, Raze probably will die. But they do get mid
is they have to dodge barrels as well.
Yep.
Because you can see they're hitting for 1200 now. Actually, they flash in. That's a big cooldown
Two
extended.
big cooldowns.
Destiny not going to be able to do this, and now the fight will turn around. Destiny blown up, and Mash just wants the backline, runs in, able to get multiple members. You can see front line of the fight is a little bit back and forth. Mash will get eaten up, and it's going to be Ryoma falling down. However, will take Nocturne with him. Mash is still up and alive, however, as is Chippy's. Flash is available. Flash shoots him, and that is going to be 3 members down. Just the tanks left, up and available, and now Mammoth will march it down mid.
And such a clutch pull from Mash wins Mammoth this team fight. The engage came out of Destiny, and we said if the engage does not stick, the team fight is just so hard for the Chiefs. They don't land onto the Vladimir. They turn it around. Now Mammoth looking at Baron.
Yeah, and however, they have to send someone back because you mentioned already, the side lane control out of the Chiefs has been so good. That is double banner as well as a jungler there. However, now Babip needs to be a little bit careful. One keg and he will fall down. And without the jungler, this will be Baron going over. He will get the turret for himself, but I do not think that is worth.
No, they've actually not started up here. Recall coming out of Tom Kench.
I mean, there's 50 seconds.
That is true. 100%. They have time to deal with it. Banner is dealt with. Elder Dragon is still up. Not to mention Chiefs have the double Infernal. So all of a sudden there is a decision that has to be made. Do they opt in for the Baron? Do they opt in for the Elder? Swiper's going to recall. Still 30 seconds, as you mentioned, on Babip. So no jungler for a very long time. But Mammoth in this situation don't really want to trade. They want to get both.
Absolutely, and they should be able to do it. They can just continue to poke away. Chippies as well as Jews will tear through this. I don't think the Chiefs can do it in time to respond. We'll see.
And that's the thing. It's a game of chicken, right? Mash is actually floating down to see if the Chiefs have started it up. Chiefs want to draw them over, but this is already at 7,000. Elder Drake is tankier than Baron, takes longer, and they don't have an AD carry. They have a Yasuo.
Teleport is available. Juve's ult is available. Time Kench ult is available. However, it looks like the Chiefs will be able to get it. So that is going to be a very scary Chiefs lineup. You probably don't want to fight them.
And that was TP coming out.
Maybe you do, actually. Mash goes in. That's going to be big damage onto Ryoma. They pop the Gangplank ultimate as well. Still looking for it. In goes Destiny. Big ultimate. And they turn this fight around. They get everyone on the back line. Juice flashes in. Is looking for the mid laner. Raze is just going to be able to walk away. Chippies is nearly unstoppable. But this is going to be the Chiefs now teleporting to the mid lane. And they might have just won this game.
And Raze is up out of his chair. All of a sudden, that was a 4 versus 5. But Bip wasn't even in the fight. The perfect choke the Chiefs find to fight in. Mammoth walks straight up the middle. Huge knock-up from Destiny. That might be the game.
Yeah, absolutely. With Ziggs available, it certainly should be. They can just march this one up. Still 20 seconds on Remind, 20 seconds on Kuden, and Raze will make very short work of these structures.
And the members are spawning in the wrong order if you're a Mammoth fan. You don't want the Aurelia, you don't want the Time Kench, you need Vlad, you need GP, but they
used
died
the
last.
satchel on the wrong target.
Oh, that's an inexperience.
Use it there, and a little bit of inexperience, as you mentioned. However, look how much damage it does. He's going to get them both low. Kuden is up, Remind is up, but I do not think they can get this team fight. And Chiefs steal game 1.
Heartbreaking loss for Mammoth. Chiefs, overall, incredibly happy with that one. They had the control, they mess it up mid-game, all of a sudden the game turns. They find their way back in, but you can see the look on Swiper's face. Like, they didn't necessarily deserve to win the game from that point. They will be unhappy with how it happened in the mid lane, but they're definitely thankful.
They certainly are, and that's got to be a little bit frustrating for Mammoth because they would have felt that they did the hard yards. They fell behind early, but they stayed disciplined. They picked their fights. They gave up the objectives they had to. But then, as you said, that 50-50 decision, they didn't rotate off Baron quick enough. There should have been 2 members on that Baron and 3 members around the Elder Dragon.
And that's the thing. The chokes were favoring them as well. They get the Vladimir in there. They land the AoE ulti. They get onto the Ziggs. All of a sudden, he blows ulti early. They don't get the pick. Mash was so pinnacle and so pivotal to teamfight victories for Mammoth. And unfortunately, it doesn't come together against an Elder. You expect to get punished immediately, and that's what Chiefs do.
Yeah, and that's once again just Destiny turning a team fight on the dime. He is so good at being able to read. Can we fight this or can we not? And the team fights they won were when he was getting big knockups. The one team fight they lost in very spectacular fashion, he was nowhere to be seen.
Yeah, it's almost so easy to explain, right? Like literally, Rakan, Alt W, if that lands, then Chiefs win. When it doesn't, unfortunately, they don't. But ultimately, they pick up the W and still undefeated this season. We're only into week number 2.
They certainly are, but I still think if you're a Mammoth fan, you look at that game and you're starting to get very excited about this season. That's your first loss. However, to do it in that fashion, to do it just through a little bit of, I mean, RNG, Drake spawn had a lot to do with that game. You fell behind early, you fought back. I think that the shape of this team, the characteristics are really starting to come out.
And that's the thing, right? This week is much more of a test for a new roster like Mammoth. They came out, they blew Bombers out of the water, played incredibly well. Now Chiefs, one of the best performing teams in the league, they were in the grand final. All of a sudden, to have such a close game 1, we haven't seen how this team loses. Of course, all they've done is win so far, so now have to bounce back, see how they come into game number 2, but already good signs, I think.
However, I think that we did see how you can kind of start to pick apart the Chiefs, where you can apply pressure, their tendencies to want to group up. I think that the Chiefs will also look at that game and have a lot to take away, and I can't wait for game number 2. However, before we get there, let's check out some highlights and then hang out with the analysts. In they go onto Ryoma, and they get him. No, they don't get him instantly. He is shut down eventually by Kuden. But Mash is still going very strong. Will eventually fall down, and this is the Chiefs now running away with it. And that's another good barrel for the slow and speed up. However, over the wall, Satchel Charge plus Comet will pick it up. Swiper goes in. Mash gets onto everyone on the back line. Will get CC'd up, but they're going to continue. 2 members already dead from the Chiefs, and this is an absolute wash. Look at how big Mash is. Jubes is following out Destiny. Babip will fall, and this is going to be the clean ace. And now the fight will turn around. Destiny blown up, and Mash just wants the backline. Runs in, able to get multiple members. You can see front line of the fight is a little bit back and forth. Mash will get eaten up, and it's going to be Ryoma falling down. However, will take Nocturne with him. In goes Destiny, big ultimate, and they turn this fight around. They get everyone on the backline. Juice flashes in, is looking for the mid laner. Raze is just going to be able to walk away. Chippies is nearly unstoppable. Kuden is up, Remind is up, but I do not think they can get this team fight. And Chiefs steal game 1.
Thanks to Hungry Jacks.